Indeed. Indeed, indeed. Hey, how's everyone doing? Let's see. I'm here and let's see if I'm broadcasting. North Miami Beach condo. Wow. Every couple hours there's new news on that. My heart goes out to the people, man, who more and more this is a story of irresponsibility and um, skipping over safety protocols, which is always one of our topics here. Safe food, clean food, right? How's everyone doing? Um, Let's see here. Let me go to the chat so I can immediately correspond. Where's the chat? Let's see. Oh, look at that. There's captions, huh? This is it's I must have captions on. Brian Casher, how are you, man? The infinite black set. I know, right? This is I could get some more lighting going actually. We can get some here you go, some that's some vintage lighting, some old school kind of orange stuff. Let me hydrate. I've not been hydrating. This is one of my favorite new things. I like these Le and those kind of it's carbonated tap water basically, but keeps me drinking water. But I found this one the other day, and it's just water, so 0 calories and all that. But it's got basically a cup of green tea is in there. So 30 milligrams of caffeine. I don't know, is that what green tea normally is? But anyway, it's kind of cool. Nice flavor. No need to have that audio. Well, yeah, just checking in. It's Monday. Just talking about increasing the green. It's summer. It's solidly summer now, right? We've got 2 weeks into summer, and yeah, I'm just here to talk every week about ideas. Things to break the chain, and I've got meatlessmondaymeetup.com, which is very basic. It's nothing on there really except the live stream links and stuff like that. But I thought I would do a little developing of that this year. But yeah, I'm open to ideas. Brian Casher, how are you, my friend? Tell me what you've been up to, man. You've been, I'm sure, doing your thing for the environment, but also doing your film and video work. I'm sure. How do I see? Oh, this is kind of cool. I never saw the. Never. This is great. I've got my captions, my English captions, and this thing is pretty good. The voice recognition. Um, yeah. Well, then I can't see the comments, so let's flip that back. What did you have for lunch today? We always have that feature on my show, and I had, let's see, a lot of kale. We have a lot. We have kale on the regular. I mean, it's a staple here. I was talking to someone the other day who never had kale, and I was like trying to understand that Just love kale. Love dark leafy greens. Kale, mustard, chard, dandelion greens, arugula is right on the borderline there of a dark, very nutrient dense green. But any of those things, collards. We have a lot of collards here in the south. Um, I love them, and they are so important. So overlooked. I really, I think they're at the core of um, what makes me feel good personally, and I hope people can find fun and delicious ways to eat greens because they are so super important. The chlorophyll, the minerals, the vitamins, vitamin C is in most of those dark leafy greens. There's some protein in dandelion and kale and chard and stuff like that. A little bit, just a couple grams per serving, but it adds up, and you know, it's a great healthy source. So I had some kale today, steamed kale with a little tamari and some hot sauce, and then I had one of these uh, kind of like a sausage kind of a thing. I guess it was soy and wheat gluten and whatever, but it had like sage and uh, all these herbs and spices in it. So it was like that breakfast sausage kind of a thing. And anyone who's seen this show knows that I have some of that stuff once in a while. We tend to have tempeh and tofu and black beans and lentils and white beans, and there's a black soybean spaghetti that we've been enjoying that's fantastic, a gluten-free spaghetti that's high protein. It's like 15 or 20 grams a serving for pasta. So that's another protein source. So we tend to mix it up, but we try all kinds of stuff, and every once in a while try those. I'm trying to think of the brand, Field Roast, yeah, which is really good. Field Roast makes a bunch of cool stuff. So that's what I had today. I had one of those, a bunch of kale, and some delicious. I meant to bring this on camera. Um, what's the name of this company? I keep forgetting to talk about this company, but they do sauerkraut and beets and um, uh, the one I had was like shredded beets. Delicious, I try to have something pickled or with vinegar or any kind of probiotic type stuff. Um, I try to have that uh, daily if I can. Something. I'm looking for this product here, but I try to have something pickled and raw on a daily basis if I can. Wow, it's one of the key things in digestion, and we talk about this all the time here. How those two things I've mentioned are um, really sorely missing in the American diet. The dark leafy greens, and I've encountered this for years, for over 15 years as a retail professional in natural food stores. I was a produce manager for better part of a decade, and wild brine, there it is. And when you'd say dark leafy greens, people would say, "Yeah, yeah, I eat salad all the time." No, no, romaine lettuce is not a dark leafy green. Well, I have spinach too. No, that's still not a dark leafy green. They're both excellent foods. I highly recommend romaine lettuce and spinach. Even the much maligned, uh, what's it called? The other lettuce that no one likes. I forget the real you know kind of throwaway lettuce. Iceberg. Yeah, I can't even remember because I don't really buy it. But if you're somewhere and there's iceberg lettuce, have the iceberg lettuce. Right? It's at least some fiber and some living energy, and yeah, there actually is good stuff in iceberg lettuce. But let's say that's the bottom of the barrel in terms of people's thinking of nutrients. Then romaine, then maybe a red lettuce they might think is a little higher because it's the pigments, and those are good pigments. But you have all of those types of things, radicchio and arugula right on the borderline. But it's important to really try to get the dark greens in there. We are, um, you know, our bodies are very attuned to that dark green chlorophyll source of nutrients, and just a great time right now. These are in season, and especially around here where we do uh, a lot of farm markets, a lot of growing. We've had a great amount of kind of nice balance of rain, and I give thanks for that. I look at what's happening in the Southwest, but crops. I'm sorry, the greens are incredible. Um, Bounty of them right now where we are in the South, in the west of North Carolina. So I'm seeing, love it a few times a week, either the farm market or the CSA that we get a delivery on every Friday. It's been great. So I highly recommend folks, if you're not a greens person, this is a good summertime. It's a great time to check them out. I also marinate greens. That's another great quick recipe. I mean, I steam, just tend to clean the kale, tear it up or cut it up nicely, and steam it. Same thing with mustard greens. Same thing with chard, collards. But kale or any of those is a beautiful marinade. I mean, if you chop the kale very finely, just marinate it in some uh, tamari, or vinegar and olive oil, just like a dressing, really, and then you can use that dressing as well. But if you marinate it with some garlic, some Bragg's apple cider vinegar, or a mix of balsamic vinegar and white vinegar, or uh, ume plum vinegar is a delicious, uh, uh, quite salty, so you can use less of that, but a delicious marinade. The thing with kale and any of these greens is you marinate them for 24 hours, and they break down a little bit with a good vinegar involved. So you have a bunch of things you can do with kale. Finally, just raw, just with that romaine, lettuce, sprout salad with with the lighter greens. Just start getting into the habit of chopping a little raw kale into that. I see chopped kale in the stores all the time. I mean, yeah, someone's going to argue that's a little lazy and blah blah blah, but you know what? If it means you're going to eat more of it, then I think you know modern compromises. But shredded organic green kale in a bag, I've seen that, and that's, man. That's the funny thing. They make it so easy to eat healthy. It's really that's I should do a show that's just on that laser fine point, the ease of eating natural and healthy. And I'm fortunate because I'm always trying to figure out why, but it was never difficult for me. I was 18 or 19 when I decided to make a change and drop animal flesh from my diet. And I was lucky. I lived at home, and my mom, who did all the cooking, she was great about it. She was like, okay, and she cooked a lot of vegetables anyway. So for her, it was like tuning in the side dishes and kind of saying, okay, make this, make that. Uh, but also, I was driving. I was a young driver for about a year or two, and I had my first car. I had a Renault Lacar. Remember those? And so I was able to go and shop. But I remember I just made a project of it, and I would go to Food Town, right there on Route 34 in Middletown. I remember just because they had more stuff, and I would just go up the aisles and just read and read and read ingredients, and um, very quickly, because I loved Caribbean food and spicy food and Chinese food and Mediterranean food. I was just starting to try some things. Um, so those bases of different rice, wild rice, brown rice, white rice, basmati rice, uh, uh, all the beans. A lot of people just don't like beans. I get it. But I was keying into, there's some Italian dishes or soups and things with lentils. Oh, okay. If I buy this kind of bean, that's what they eat in Jamaica, red beans and rice. Oh, okay. This kind of adzuki beans. Wow. Okay. I see these Asian recipes with that. So very early, I was lucky, and I had a New York Times cookbook, which I still have somewhere, and it was not a vegetarian cookbook, but it was called the New York Times Natural Cookbook or something along those lines. Because again, this was 1984. There was like this populist. You started seeing the grapefruit diet and the eat what was it, the Diamonds? Forget the Marilyn Diamond and her husband. They had their popular book. So all these books were coming out about cooking naturally. So anyway, just reminiscing there to say that I was fortunate. I've never had a period of time where I've been, oh man, it's so hard to eat vegetarian. So I I'm always ready to help people to you know get past that. So so that's what I had today. Some sort of field roast sausage thing. Some delicious steamed kale, of which there's still a half a pot left. We always have a pot of steamed kale if you stop by. And have it different ways. Have it with tahini and a little ume plum vinegar again. Have it with in a salad. The steamed kale added to a salad with whatever dressing. Steamed kale with just egg. I had some of that the other day. Just egg. Haven't talked about it in a while. That's the mung bean based egg alternative that is mind blowing. I mean, this stuff you do omelets and frittatas and anything, and it is just wow. I mean, it is so good that there's a chain in China, a 500 strong chain, and they're using this stuff. And this is in China where that aesthetic of that little bit of fried egg, right, in the rice and in the noodle dishes, they're not playing around. That's got to be pretty authentic. And this stuff does it because it's a mung bean protein, which is right there in the Chinese food umami as well. So so that's another thing to do with kale. Make omelets with that. Um, uh, and then I had the pickled beets, of which I'm going to share with you. This company, great company, Wild Brine, really love them, and just great for digestion. I just got my. Well, let me go to some of your comments and questions, then I'll come back. A little dehydrated today. Uh, so thanks again, Brian. Lynn Zawada, how are you, my friend? I saw you you connected one of your friends to my music the other day, which I appreciate. Yeah, I did a stream of just I try to always do some live music on July 4th. It's kind of I do some live music every day, but July 4th there's like a special energy, and while I love being American, I'm an immigrant. I'm a legal immigrant, and I champion the idea of helping people get that paperwork done and become a citizen. So I love that part of America, the welcoming and the we came here as immigrants. Some very kind folks helped my parents in 1965 come here as brown skinned immigrants from South America. Wow, that is, that it's always extra special in the post colonial age to have people that help people in the less developed parts of the world, economically challenged parts of the world, to come to these other countries and get a start. So I always, wow, that's a visceral thing for me, because that's I'm sitting here because I came to Chicago at 5 months old and learned how to read and write and you know be inquisitive about things uh, at a higher level than I would have somewhere else. So July 4th, yeah, I think about all that positive stuff. I think about all the mixed bag stuff about America and its own imperialism and colonialism. So I usually do some music to sort it all out. So right here on my Facebook feed, if you're on Facebook, uh, it's there from yesterday, and I'm gonna have it on the YouTube feed soon. So, okay. So thank you, Lynn, for that, and Brian is doing environmental work, advocacy for children, and closet musicianship. That's great. Well, as long as the musicianship holds it all together, then I'm happy. But that's some great work you're doing. Michael, what's up, my friend? Michael Bernier is here, who was my guest about 3 weeks ago at this point. I forget. How are you, my friend? That was a great hang, and that's also here on my YouTube, on my Facebook. If you haven't seen it, Michael's world traveled musician, stick player, guitarist, keyboard player, and lifelong vegetarian. So we had a really interesting interview. I'm always fascinated when people have never had animal flesh in their lives. I have a couple Indian friends who were, because of the Hindu, um, you know, teachings of their parents and stuff, followed that they never had meat in their lives, never had animal flesh. So that's interesting. Uh, you know, it's always cool. So Michael had a Beyond Burger with a cranberry arugula pecan salad. Okay, that sounds good. Pecan walnut. That sounds great. Dandelion is alkaline and a bitter aid. Yes, absolutely. That's another thing, right? All of those greens, and they call them bitter greens in some cultures. I love it. I love bitter foods. I- I'm lucky because that's so important for digestion and so lacking in the American palate. Bitter is not a very American thing, right? It's sweet, savory, salty. The umami of Asian foods is obviously a big one, and that's kind of a its own uh, uh, flavor. Whether it's the sixth one or the seventh one, I forget. But American diet, unfortunately, bitter is not celebrated. Bitter is not one of the solid components as it is in so many other cuisines, nor is fermentation, which is right on the edge there of bitter. But slowly Americans are picking up on some of these things. I mean, you look at the explosion of kombucha, right? You find that at 7-Eleven, you find it at Wawa, at truck stops. I'm amazed. And um, so that has spread. Americans, of course, love pickles, and when they're actually good quality ones, that's a little niche of help. But I'd say the number one thing the American diet needs is more sauerkraut and kimchi and pickles. If you like good old kosher dill pickles, that's great. Japanese pickles like umeboshi plums. Uh, uh, the other pickled foods from around the world. I think one of the number one things I'm going to say, because we have such bad digestion in the United States. It's horrific. I mean, go look it up. Go look up how many antacids are prescribed, and then how many digestive enzymes are prescribed and are over the counter. So you have this people working on both ends of messing up the digestive system, uh, instead of just eating bitter foods, pickled foods. Pretty simple. And we need raw, like not pasteurized. Michael says, yes, you're a pool or an aquarium. Keep your pH in check. Very good. Bassam at 3. I always know when Bassam's here, it's gonna be surreal. Bassam, you are flying the flag of Paul Krasner. And I say that in a good way. You know who Paul Krasner is? Leading satirist comedian. He had this magazine, The Realist, in the 60s, I think, but very funny guy. Bassam, look him up. Paul Krasner, really pot advocate, and I think he was one of the guys behind the High Times, or he was peripheral to those guys, but he did a lot of amazing stuff. Only died recently. Died, I think he was 90 or something. But National Lampoon and all this satirical stuff that we take for granted, he was doing that shit in the 60s, and you are flying his flag, my friend. So, 3 double bacon cheeseburgers and a triple bypass and a Diet Pepsi. God bless America. That's a good one, bro. Excuse me. The the seltzer water burp. Brian asks, "Have I pulled together a cookbook?" No, bro. Should I? My wife loves your foodie stuff, and I'm trying to eat more healthy these days. Green grapes, red grapes, blueberries, raspberries, and phosphor water. Psh, that's awesome, bro. That's a raw foods day so far. You got a lot of good uh, uh, bioflavonoids and catechins, and um, you know, what else is in some of those blueberries and raspberries? Just high in antioxidants and vitamins. See, that's great, man. I do not have a cookbook though. I one of the flaws in my life. There's so many. Where do we count? Well, one of the big ones is I think of an idea and then I spoil it. There you go. Put that on my uh, tombstone. He thought of ideas, then he spoiled them. That's it. We're done. But no, I think of ideas and then I I I torture myself going like, well, someone else has the same thing or a better one. Or why am I bothering? Why am I going to clog the bandwidth? So so then when I do something, I try to do it a little bit differently. Even this show here, this whole format and the kind of stuff I talk about. Having said that, my friend, I have thought of a cookbook for years, working in natural food store, giving people recipes every day. Why don't you write these down? I would make soups almost every day. We had a every day in our store for over a decade. We had hot vegan soups available, amazingly popular, amazingly delicious. And I would make a soup most of the 7 days of the week. And people would ask for recipes every day. Vegan French onion soup or three bean soup or lentil soup or you know Asian mixed vegetable soup, uh, creamy uh, kombucha squash with wild rice. Not kombucha, sorry, kabocha squash with or creamy acorn squash with wild rice. Um, just every day a different soup and Italian wedding soup, you know, red bean soup, Cuban style black bean soup with rice. Every day recipes. So I would write stuff down, and somewhere there's a bunch of index cards or something. But then I just think, there's so many fucking cookbooks. Why bother? So thanks for asking, my friend. I am looking for some new ideas and revenue streams. So we'll see what happens. Part of my Patreon, actually, if you look at my Patreon site, which I'll put the link there, uh, the one of the layers has me cooking once a month on camera and preparing some food. And I'm about to start that. I have two people who are at that Patreon level, and we gotta do that part. Patreon. There is my Patreon link in the chat. Thank you for asking. Okay, so Brian, but certainly you could message me anytime, bro. If you're like, man, we're stuck here. We need some ideas, for this food or that food, or how do I replace this with that? If you have a favorite dish that used some animal flesh that you're trying to replace, or some saturated fat that you're trying to replace. Um, Finally, I'll say, and I always say this with cookbooks, it's an incredible time for just going on YouTube. Wow. I mean, I really, if you think of any food you like, just, um, I mentioned a vegan French onion soup before, and someone has just asked me about that a couple weeks ago. I make a amazing vegan French onion soup. Um, and something like that, though. If you just go to YouTube and punch in vegan French onion soup, you'll have 15 recipe cooking clips and recipes. Anything, Thai spicy eggplant. Boom, there it's gonna be. Um, you know, Vegan masaman curry. Boom, there it is. How to make tabbouleh. Boom. Um, so anyway, don't forget that you have that amazing extensive free service of YouTube. Um, let's see. Basam. Basam says iceberg. Yeah, yeah, right. That's what I was trying to remember earlier, and I somehow did, as my ailing memory goes away. Did I ever try to mix the Doc? Ever try the Doc Gregory mix? I don't know what that is. Hmm. Doc Gregory sounds like Dick Gregory. Oh, maybe. Okay, that's what you're talking about. The Dick Gregory. I thought it was like. I was thinking audio mix. I was like, oh, cool. What software is that? Doc Gregory. Dick Gregory, the late incredible uh, Renaissance man, and entrepreneur, and big thinker, and civil rights advocate, and comedian. Big hero of mine. I learned about him as a young child because my dad had one of his books, like an illustrated book. So that was fun for a 5-year-old. And I remember, you don't really understand that someone's critiquing racism and police brutality and all that. But there's something, that something's not going right for this person. So I think back about that stuff a lot because I didn't really realize it. But I went to events with Jesse Jackson, Operation Breadbasket. I was listening to all this stuff my dad had, The Last Poets, you know, Isaac Hayes, and stuff like Dick Gregory. So thanks for bringing him up. Jump ahead. Dick Gregory was a decades long vegetarian and natural foods advocate, big advocate for in the black community, in poor communities that overlap, to really advocate that it's pretty inexpensive actually to eat healthy, and it really is. Beans and rice and a bag of apples and simple vegetables and are actually dirt cheap. I've been very poor. I know this to be a fact, and I was born in a pretty poor country, and I've spent a lot of time in poor countries, and the poor people of the earth tend to eat pretty healthy once it's not at a drought or um, you know kind of dysfunctional level. They're eating pretty healthy. So Dick Gregory was great because he advocated all these things. To Brian's point, Dick Gregory had a mix, like a powder protein mix. You put it into a blender with some stuff. I did. I had it one time. We used to carry it in the store. He had a number of incarnations of this stuff, and I know there was one that was really good and natural ingredients. Some of the early ones maybe had some, processed soy and things. But yeah, great guy, and he had a few great products. I met him, which was really special. I saw him speak at my college, the one college degree I have is an associate's in computer science. So at Middlesex County College, I heard Dick Gregory speak, which was like, wow, like a guru, and he covered a lot of natural food stuff, a lot of politics, and a lot of how they overlap, how they connect. So, glad, thank you for bringing up Dick Gregory, and the answer is yes. Todd Reynolds, what's up, my bro? Hopefully you're still here. Pickled mustard greens, yes, I've had many versions of those, and absolutely, yeah. And what the Chinese do with greens and pickling greens, yeah. And I've had some from China, from Japan, from Korea, pickled greens with uh, scallions and things like that, and their ginger, amazing. And you kind of get both things there that I've been talking about: the necessity of pickled food and the necessity of dark green food. So yeah, you had me at pickled greens. Love it. Never without them for your kimchi bowls. That's great. Yeah, have some two types of kimchi in the fridge as well. So we're big on pickles. Yeah, right now in the fridge, two types of kimchi, two or three types of sauerkraut. I got these beets from the same company, Bright Brine Company, Wild Brine they're called. I'm gonna feature them on the screen in a minute. Oh my God, I couldn't tell you how many pickles we have. We've been loving these pickles from Grillo's, this company in Rhode Island, I think, or somewhere, New Hampshire, Rhode Island. Wow, just incredible, fresh, crunchy, amazing dill pickles. Um, and then there's a couple other local companies where we get pickled okra and you know other types of pickles. So yeah, big pickle house. Then there's some umeboshi plum. There's a little jar of umeboshi plum, the Japanese staple, and umeboshi plum vinegar, which I use religiously. I love that stuff. So all that. Um, Frank Bellina says, "I thought your body's pH is regulated by body process, not affected by food intake." That's a great uh, uh, point, and my first reaction is, to me, those are inseparable, though. Your food intake is your body process, right? I mean, or flip it around, your body processes food, and it then becomes. So there's very little between those two, I think. That said, yeah, sometimes people toss around the idea of pH um, as if it's a sudden changing thing, and then sometimes people get it wrong. Like I've talked to so many people that have chronic acidic conditions, right? Which is very common. That's kind of the American average, and I'm not exaggerating, because acidity and pH imbalance, low pH is acidity actually, uh, is part of all the inflammatory situations, which are a fucking American nightmare. What are the inflammatory uh, um, top hits? Hit parade. What's the inflammatory hit parade? Uh, Syndrome X is another phrase that's used, and that covers this. And inflammatory slash syndrome X disease slash acidic conditions include uh, uh, well, MS, fibromyalgia, lupus, irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, uh, gout. Wow, major one. Uh, what am I missing? You get the picture. These are all inflammatory. They're all about acidity at some level, or they're made worse by that. Um, so to Frank's point, it's a great point, Frank, because you're having me kind of think about this in three dimensions. So my answer is yes. Your body's pH is regulated by body process, but that's affected by food intake. So kind of, what you're saying, kind of fits together. Um, one of the things too is um, we eat a lot of things like refined white flour, dairy, and animal flesh. Those three are, wow, that's like, right? That's three times a day for a lot of Americans, right? Um, that egg McMuffin in the morning, or the pork roll, egg and cheese in the morning, then the burger at lunch, or turkey sandwich, chicken sandwich, shrimp salad sandwich. All of them, they all both of those always have what I just said: refined white flour, animal protein of some sort, bad imbalance of omega 3, 6, 9. It's usually mostly 6, with corn oil or corn syrup or corn flour in the bread. I mean, so we're getting every meal, we're getting the same hit to the system that moves towards acidity, moves towards inflammation. And then we wonder, we go, wow, you know, I had the low fat turkey. Why do I feel like shit? Or why do I have these bad numbers at my checkup? Um, and then for dinner, similar thing. It's uh, usually there's a white flour shows up again, maybe rice or some other grain, but usually pasta or bread or something, right? In every meal, and usually some sort of acidic inducing animal flesh, and we just go round and round and round. Again, someone out there is thinking, this guy's full of shit. This is ridiculous. Okay, fine. I'm here so somebody thinks I'm full of shit. That's okay. But sadly, the numbers bear me out. Again, just go Google USA indigestion problems, or percent of Americans on antacids. Um, uh, you know, anything around related to that, and you may be shocked. It's a top level issue. We're not digesting our food, and we're uncomfortable uh, in a gastric sense. The Pepto Bismol, the Nexium, and the Pepsid AC, and all these things. I believe Nexium was taken off the market actually because it's so fucked up. But something else fills its place instead of just eating some live food. Brian says kale is now next on your list. Okay, awesome. That's great, bro. If kale's a new thing for you, please reach out to me for ideas and recipes, and or don't just put it in some soup, steam some, put your favorite dressing on it. You're done. You gotta. Sabine, how are you? Good to see you, my friend. Haven't talked to you in a while. Um, um, we make our own kimchi. Highly recommend making ones. Yeah, of course. Well, that's true about everything, right? Making your own. Um, years and years ago, I made all kinds of stuff. I made tofu from scratch, which was like hours of work. I made I've made bread from scratch a number of times. I've made pasta from scratch. I didn't make kimchi, but I made sauerkraut from scratch, which was awesome. And we've done some pickling from scratch, and I've done all kinds of other stuff, tomato sauce, and of course things like hummus and tabbouleh and falafel. But not kimchi yet. Maybe one of these days. Um, that one's right on the borderline for me. Um, only well, I'm lucky though. Again, I live in a very artisan kind of community. It's like what's made fun of on Portlandia, where you've got a lot of artisan pickles and artisan uh, kimchi and sauerkraut and all these things. Um, so we're lucky, but not everyone has access to someone else making it from scratch, like last weekend and stuff like that. But yeah, maybe one of these days find time for that. Um, Johnny Tomasello, what's up, my friend? Um, so let's see. I want to go to what do we have here? Uh, go to our screen, our other screen, I should say. Uh, um, by the way, for the music fans, and I was overlap some music stuff. Um, is a little RIP for Rick Laird, the great bass player who Mahavishnu Orchestra. Many of you would know him from, and it's a big loss because it's the first. Whenever someone dies from a band like that, and you kind of go, "Wow, okay," they influenced hundreds of other groups, but also it's the first person in the group to die, so it has that little edge of completion, of the band. It kind of means that they truly are gone. But yeah, Rick Laird, great bass player and great photographer. Actually, he's known for a lot of photo exhibits and stuff. Played also with Stan Getz and Chick Corea and a bunch of other people that I'm forgetting right now. But yeah, Rick Laird, rest in peace, as of yesterday. Okay, so here's Wild Brine. I'm gonna pull them up. And Johnny T, are you sitting on the beach yet, Johnny? Todd says, yeah, the expense. Sure, sure. Again, like everything else, absolutely. Just getting those vegetables and doing it yourself, absolutely. Um, plus you are getting the fresher and the kind of you know. But yeah, one of these days might try that. We had a bunch of leeks and scallions the other day in our CSA, and I was like, I almost did like just a leek kimchi sort of a thing. That's what's great too is kimchi. Literally thousands of different ones because it's what each family makes. So it's like you know it's like a sauce in Italy or something where no one buys sauce. Everyone has their own little combination and recipe, and same thing in Korea with that. So continuing that on pickled foods, which I love and which I almost every day try to have. I'm celebrating a little bit. You know what? I think I'm gonna because I don't. There's nothing that private about it. I might share my blood results. I'm gonna get them in a couple days, and then I go back and forth like, oh, how boring can life be? But then on the other hand, maybe it's an inspiration to some people because I knock on wood that I'm 56 and I had a really great checkup. I just gotta one thing. One thing I got to do is up the exercise. I mean, like many millions of people, canceled our gym membership a year ago, right? Why pay $71 a month to not go? And we started doing yoga, started doing a lot more walking, and that fell on and off. But got to get back on my bike, which I'm getting my bike repaired in a couple of days. Excuse me. Um, more carbonation burps. So um, my checkup, I was, you go in, you don't know, right? That's the whole fucking reason for a checkup. But I'm so happy to know that other than having to up the exercise, they were really pleased with everything, and my numbers were good, and um, you know, pulse and heart rate and um, um, some of the preliminary blood stuff. I asked them to do a real comprehensive blood test, so I'm getting that. I think tomorrow, actually, or the next day, the results and the you know um, my bone mass is what they were consistently. They're always like, "Wow, that you really have consistent and strong bone mass," and I love that because, and I discuss it with the nurse practitioner, with the doctor, because I don't consume dairy, but it's hammered into our heads, right? It's amazing what a job they've done. Uh, and I know even me saying it, I know there's probably someone going, but I thought dairy, I thought bones, dairy, don't you have to eat sardine bone? There's all this stuff that they tell us, and I don't touch dairy, and uh, I have uh, consistently uh, just that niche of health. I say, okay, great, well, got that dialed in, and it's always interesting too when the medical professional kind of asks and says, "Wait, are you on any prescriptions that we don't have anything on your records? Is there something missing? Is there something wrong?" They can't believe I'm not on something, right? And then they always say, "No, no, are you on something? Because you're just no, no." They always want to know what I'm on, and I'm like, "Yeah, sorry, no prescriptions." And then they look up the rest of it and they go, "Yeah, he's 56-year-old black man in the United States of America. And wow, you're supposed to have diabetes or prediabetes, or you're supposed to have gout now. What's this is weird. How do you not have arthritis? How do you uh, this chart? There's a moment of that kind of thing, and I'm far from the perfect of health, folks. Please don't. That's not what I'm saying at all. But to me, these simple metrics are so easy to hit. Just eat what your body's designed for, and it's clearly a high plant-based diet. Sure, you can make the argument for small amounts of animal flesh, animal muscle. The funny part is the strong argument is for eating animal organs, but then no one eats that. But if you were going to really look at what's softer and easier to break down, easier to digest, and gives you way more nutrients ounce per ounce, it's eating the liver and the heart and the kidneys of animals. That's really what you should be eating if you're trying to, you know, get the quickest bang for the buck. But Oh, that's gross, right? Someone just said that. I think that's funny. This part of the dead, disemboweled, blood-soaked animal carcass is gross. I want this part of the blood-soaked, disemboweled animal carcass. Yeah, really, it's fascinating. Anyway, just musing today, folks, and I am gonna go to this featured company that I wanted to talk about. So Michael says you're referring to digestive pH. I can't remember what that reference was, but yeah, I think we're on the same page. I can't remember. Um, you you, you were saying yeah, digestive pH, keeping it balanced. Yeah, and sure, yeah. So we're on the same page. We know that. I would actually expand that though to say I want my saliva pH to be properly right in range. My blood pH, right? So I'm with you. Yeah, digestive is the kind of the main canary in the coal mine. That's where Americans, especially, and Western world people, right after that, are suffering. But especially Americans. Wow, our numbers are horrific on digestion. Um, but you're right, digestive pH, but all pH, yeah, blood pH, saliva pH, all is. It's going to be a downhill battle for all of those when you're on this SAD, the standard American diet, right? The standard acidic diet. Um, Sharon Lynn Baker. Hey, how are you? That's fine. Whenever people show up is a nice surprise for me. That anyone's here listening to my blather. But someone out there is eating less animal protein, so that's all. That's the only reason I do it. Um, okay, great. So let me go to Wild Brine. I just want to make sure people know about this. And I thought of this company because there's so many and so many of these local products that I support. But I thought this was cool because I find this in a lot of supermarkets, and uh, you can really some excellent stuff they make. So I can't find the one that I just had, which was Beets. But anyway, cool company. See them in your supermarket, uh, perhaps, and I think they're in Whole Foods and all that. Unpasteurized pickled foods, so really great stuff. Um, they have a Japanese style kimchi, which is interesting. So what I love is when companies take something traditional and yeah, push the envelope a little bit, do something a little different. Uh, this is what I had for lunch. I believe that's the one. Red beet. Mm. So red beet and cabbage, all organic. It's all very fresh. As I say, unpasteurized. So you got the enzymes and they're crunchy, really good fresh stuff. Yes, of course I can make this myself, folks. And again, I've made sauerkraut, and it's a meditative task because you're shredding that cabbage up very finely, and there's some nice tools that you can use to do that. But by hand, it's very easy, and cabbage is very symmetric. It's very hypnotic, and then you're basically salting it right? And just packing it. And if you have a crock, like a stone crockware kind of a thing, which I do, perfect for that. And um, as I was mentioning with Todd's great suggestion before, one of these days we'll uh, try kimchi. So yeah, I could make it. You could make it, but if you're not going to, and you're being realistic, might as well get it. And it's a recyclable container. These are nice reusable containers actually. But like anything else, you have that trade off of buying the product or making it yourself versus will you really make it. So anyway, thought you'd like to know about these folks. I really love them because wow, so basic. Just really every item just has vegetables, salt, and spices, and herbs. And depending on the flavor, might have tamari, might have some chili flakes or something like that. Um, so you have some really great choices from these guys. So again, I've had half a dozen of their flavors. I think the red beet and cabbage. There's a delicious purple cabbage, red cabbage sauerkraut, and your classic green kraut. Oh, one of my favorite foods is that right there. That's like the Coca-Cola of sauerkraut. It's the basic, just cabbage and salt, folks. And so let's see. Wild Brian, yeah, good band name, right? Wendy Woods, how are you, my friend? Wendy Woods is an old and dear friend that goes back to my first experience working in natural food stores when I met Wendy Woods. And that was, oh my God, Wendy, right? 89, 90, 91, something like that. But good to see you here. Sabina says, sauerkraut is made of cabbage. What does red beet and cabbage sugar mean? Well, I know, at the risk of insulting a German, um, red beet and cabbage sauerkraut means exactly that. It's sauerkraut. It's classic sauerkraut that they added red beet. So you tell me. It might be sacrilege, as to my Coca-Cola comparison. It's like when they came up with cherry Coke. Some people were very mad and wouldn't touch it, but it's just Coke with, you know, some cherry extract or something. Uh, so red beet and cabbage is pickled shredded red beet, and then they've got a red sauerkraut, which is simply red cabbage. So I guess that would qualify as being traditional. But one of the beauties of food, as I know you embrace, is the evolution and the fact that you know human cultures moving around the planet, colliding, changing, bringing ideas. I love it. It's one of my favorite things. I loved Anthony Bourdain. I love that. Um, he was so good because he always talked about that, the cultural connections with food. Really miss that guy, and what a shame. Um, it's fucked up. I don't want to laugh, but I was just listening to a Dave Chappelle routine he did about Anthony Bourdain and how fucked up it was that he killed himself. And it is easy for us to go, dude had everything. And as Dave Chappelle said, dude was getting paid to to fly around the planet and eat food and get fucked up. Wow, who could possibly? But it really shows, right? Depression and different things going on in your life. Fuck, man, that shit is fucked up. But Dave's routine was just about what a sweet job that was. I won't do the whole routine, but it's a funny one. But it's a sad thing to lose him. But anyway, my point is that's the dream job. If I could go around the world as the plant-based Anthony Bourdain, oh my God, I'd be in heaven. I already do that for no money when I'm touring because I go and I shoot videos all the time. They're sitting on a hard drive. I got to do something with it. But I have possibly hundreds of hours of video of me in, you know, you name it, in Tokyo or in I'm forgetting the Montevideo, Uruguay, or I might be in Sydney, Australia, Melbourne, Australia, you know, um, Tel Aviv, London. Many times I've made films there, Berlin, Amsterdam, Utrecht in Netherlands. So wherever I go, Kingston, Jamaica, Mexico City, did a lot of video in Mexico City. We were blown away at the vegan energy in Mexico City. So I make all these tapes and videos, and I just, uh, you know, you get home and it's like, but I do them in a way like in tribute to Anthony Bourdain. I'm standing somewhere, I'm trying something, I'm talking to people about the culture, and my point though is what a beautiful thing it is when things evolve and change, and so to this point of, you know, what's authentic sauerkraut. um yeah, I'm with you. There's something called sauerkraut. Let's leave that the way it is, and then have a different name for other things. So as you're saying, it's sauerkraut. Sauerkraut, okay. Is that just a different German name? Sabine's throwing that. She's like, nope, that is not sauerkraut. Okay, I respect that. You are an official German, and you officially grew up with this food. So, um, just like pills, which I hate pilsners. Just like pills in Germany, it's four ingredients different. Special, not the tastiest. Special, yeah, you're right. Not the tastiest. I like a good um, Kolsch, the Köln beer, and the Kolsch beer. That's a nice one. And I like sours. Speaking of pickles and things. Okay, so there we go, folks. I will put Wild Brine, um, their link into the chat. Really cool company. And look at that. Oh, wow. A whole field of cabbage. I'm in heaven. Only a weird vegetarian would be excited at a field of cabbage. Wow. That looks wonderful. Look at that. They're just showing you the basic ingredients, right? Cabbages, ginger, onions. They sweeten with things like pears and apple. Wow. Look at that. Their whole production line. Fantastic. Okay, let's put that in the chat. Let's see. All right. What else what did you have for lunch, Sabina? I haven't seen you here in a while, my friend. What how's your how's your little garden going on your you know, on your landing? How is your natural foods journey? What did people have for lunch? All right, let's see here. Great. Let me add the Wild Brine link. There we go. The time has come, the walrus said. Yeah, cabbages and kings, right? Kelsch. I'm probably saying that wrong, right, Sabine? Kelsch. The Kelsch beer in the little tall glasses. Very nice. Oh, that's great. Making up an American name. That's fantastic, actually. Now that you explain that. Oh, you had a salad and some strawberries. Nice. Harvested some salads. That means you're growing some salad. Very nice. I'm not growing enough. We are, but it's not. We haven't harvested much yet. Okay. All right. We've got those links. Oh, okay. Kels. Got to work on that. When do we get to come to Germany? I'm ready to come solo and play some electronic music. I've got my solo electronic rig going, and I just did a thing yesterday, as I explained. And those of you who missed it, here's. quick little 2 minute sound bite there. But yeah, that's on my Facebook wall. If you care to go insane with the hey, there's I got my people out there. What can I say? Who like noise and weirdness. So that's for you. But that's what else I'm doing. So all right. The one other topic I wanted to touch on was well, there's a couple of the cool new products. Every week there's new products. I've been missing out on some of them. But I also wanted to talk about the animal reservoir thing, right? And see how that's developing week by week. That's very interesting. Um, the once again, the global warming thing has been the head news for a week, right? The climate change out west, the water supply out west, and the water supply. The almonds are a big part of it. There's what's happening too. It's very ironic. A lot of these animal slaughter farms, because of the economics of it, have switched over to almond farms. So they're actually, in a way, a bigger problem now because almonds use so much water, and there's so many more almond farms than there were just 5 or 10 years ago. So it's like, face palm. You know, um, economically, we should almost just buy out these animal farmers and offer them alternatives to do something sustainable, something low water required. There are crops that use a lot less water. There's some berries and things that use very little water. Uh, but almonds are near the top of the plant based. So it's really depressing because almonds are very healthy. They're wonderful. But maybe we don't need to grow 81% of the world's uh, uh, almonds in California, if that's a correct statistic. I heard that Bill Maher was doing a monologue on that, and he gave that number. So I haven't vetted that, but he's usually pretty accurate on things like that. Um, but we got to we got to change things. One of the problems is once environmental issues collide with that American vibe that everything should grow infinitely, there never should be a ceiling, and everyone gets to do whatever they want, anytime, always, when it comes to business ideas. It's very interesting. And I know someone just called me a communist, or I'm against capitalism, or whatever nonsense. But this is where we are because we go the opposite extreme, where you have hundreds of new farmers growing almonds. You have this glut almost of the crop, but since it's still a premium crop, it doesn't become a glut. Um, it's a very tough thing to work out. We go through that here where I live, where we have brewery after brewery after brewery. Once you've hit 50 or 60, really, should we really have another brewery? Like, but again, as soon as you say that, someone gets upset, talks about freedom, and and it obliterates any discussion. It's very funny. Anyway, just saying that to say it's a good time to be reading about climate change and how our agriculture impacts that, and how much more we should be eating local food when we can, and uh, well, local food, of course, and eating lower on the food chain. Um, so those are some things. Let's see. Okay, let's copy that. Got a couple links here. So one of the other links, I always point out because I think it's a marker. It's not my favorite thing uh, at all. These fast food places. Um, okay. Um, Not my favorite thing at all, but I do bring it up because it's an indicator of what's happening on the top mass level of consumption. We're going to have consumption. We have a populated planet of dominated by this organism called human beings that uh, for better or worse, here we are in the 21st century, and we, are um, you know, just doing some crazy things. But we certainly we consume, right? We consume raw materials. We grow crops and consume them. One of the issues of this show is to look at that consumption as it relates to the mechanized factory level, you know, animal thing. Uh, so you know that how I feel about some of these companies. Having said that, it is an indicator to me when McDonald's or Burger King changes their menu and brings some plant-based protein into the game. It is significant to me when Chipotle or when Walmart has a house brand of frozen entrees, completely clean, natural ingredients, and it's meatless and it has some kind of soy protein, wheat protein, pea protein. There's a variety of things. I don't know. To me, that's a moment because that's Walmart, the biggest retailer in the world. In the world, like them or not, that's the numbers. So when they are ordering a million SKUs of a seitan-based unchicken with vegetables frozen thing, that's having an impact. It's having an impact. It's saying let's grow more wheat than growing corn and grains and feeding them to chickens and slaughtering the chickens and creating all that waste and creating that incredible cycle of stuff. They're saying let's grow a plant that, you know, where it's done properly, the crop rotations and things mean that we have that land that's staying vibrant. So I love when these big companies get involved because it is um, an indicator they're going to buy something anyway, whether it's an ocean liner full of pigs or an ocean liner full of black soybeans. They're going to buy it. So, uh, Brian, thank you. Yeah, sweet rig, you said, and thanks. That's jumping back a little bit here. I'm just going back to your comments. That's my travel rig, and I have it worked out that I can get on a plane and go anywhere on Earth and do a full-on balls to the wall electronic gig. I've got my little modular carry-on briefcase thing, and I carry that guitar. It's a little Steinberger. Both are check-in. Both are carry-on, and I check one bag. Um, Thank you, Brain Dead Casey. Brian says almond monoculture is terrible for bees too. Yeah, yeah. The almond thing is I yeah, people need to know that anyone who watches this knows this. I'm very critical of, you know, plant-based stuff that's fucking stupid and the endless parade of companies just being invented overnight to make another almond milk just a nickel cheaper than the other one is stupid, and it's just more uh, Tetra packs and more shipping and more almond. We just don't need it. I'm happy to pay $20 a pound for almonds if it means we have a lesser supply and less farmers and less stupid, um, you know, use of our land and our water. Happy to pay. Um, so monoculture is not good. Yes. There's a time that anything against status quo is communist, right? The 50s, and they're bringing it back. Michael Mann's new book, The New Climate Wars. Okay. Michael is a principal author of UN. Okay. Interesting. I'm so swamped on reading right now, but yes, keep me posted on that. Maybe by next time I see you, I will have caught up on the 7 books sitting next to my bed. But I read a lot, and I read some magazines too. I read Wired, and sometimes Wire, and the other one is a Waveform. It's a very cool magazine. It only comes out 4 times a year. It's all hardcore synthesis and sound production and stuff. I read the New Yorker, and I'm reading a couple books right now. One on the early years of Pink Floyd, and another one, a lot of music books. Another one on the Canadian band Max Webster. Again, enough politics and environmental shit. Just listening to NPR and reading articles. Uh, let's see. But isn't it strange that business somehow seems to be not going to sustainability? Yes, Sabine, that's just correct. It is horrific, and I applaud so many European companies. I know, it's not perfect there. Someone's going to say that. I didn't say it's perfect, but they. Uh, every time I go there, every time I'm in Portugal or Netherlands or certainly Germany and England, Estonia, some of these countries you go, remarkable garbage programs and recyclable programs and getting into plant-based plastics and um, um, making walkways, right? Making walking only sections of town. They do it. They go ahead and say fuck you to the motorists. No, we're closing this section of the town for walking. And that's on top of European aesthetic already, where there's always walking, you know, areas, and there's always beautiful shopping areas and eating areas where they are piazzas in Italian, but they're these piazzas and these little streets and these lanes and these areas where there's no cars. That's so normal in these European cities, and they're pushing it further. So to me, that's sustainability, as Sabine has brought up. That's sustainability, and that's pushing back on the business community, who would love nothing better than, you know, going the other direction. So I know it's going to be a constant battle rest of our lives. Okay, Brendan. Yep. Thank you. Stuck with that name. Okay. No, you're right, Sabine. There's just a lot of stupidity. And yes, as I said, and I say every time, it's not perfect in Europe. But you know what? Nothing's perfect. I'll just take way better at the five basic metrics, and I will, you know, take credit for your continent. It's so easy because of the shitty stuff that Europe has done, which is a long list, right? It's so easy to just kind of flip the dial all the way. And one of the funny things about older civilizations, being India, many of the African civilizations, um, and a lot of European civilizations, um, that we have a straight line. Of course, the Aztecs, the Mayans, ancient civilizations in South America, but some of them have been they're got wiped out, unfortunately. Many of them, of course, the people of Mexico are Aztecan, right? Descent, Mayan descent in certain areas. So there is a line going back, but a lot of these, but similarly to the ancient African populations, there's a break there, right? Because of the European colonialists who came and created that break of the hellish centuries of colonialism and imperialism. So you have that break, but in both cultures, whether it's South American, uh, uh, Central American, whether it's some of the older cultures in parts of the African continent, um, the connection's there. It's just been heavily interrupted. But these older, China also is another example of old cultures where you have thousands of years of trying this, trying that. They've ended up, it's not pure communism as it was in China in the, you know, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. But it's certainly they're on that spectrum. But I applaud how Europe has embraced um, and tried it all out. You've tried out monarchies, you've tried out dictatorships, you've tried out fascist leaders, you've tried out um, you know all kinds of different types of royalty and whatnot. Um, so I just kind of honor that because you've seen the fucking movie. You've seen, and in Germany pretty recently, you've seen. Okay, that's not the way to go. Let's go back. So I always say that healthcare, 14 years of education, taking care of your elderly people, taking care of mental health care, sensible drug laws, and working wages, like some mandated minimum amount of money that must be paid if you want to run a business. Just those six things, maybe one or two others like paternal leave, maternal leave, paternal leave. These are massive things that are different in Europe. Um, the just the idea of everyone having access to healthcare. We talk about that every day in this country, and um, when I talk to people in Europe, there's often, well, there's this problem or that problem. Yeah, but you have it. It's like it's. I don't think you recognize how many millions of Americans just have to fucking take some Robitussin and hope for the best. I think most of them would take, uh, you know, a system with problems, but at least I can go get checked up or, you know. But yeah, not perfect anywhere, and I'll always uh, happy to discuss that. Cheryl Griffith, how are you? Thanks for watching. What did you have for lunch today? Brian says U.S. companies do a lot of greenwashing. They like the good vibes, but not much doing their part. Yes, my buddy Pete Brunelli, who was a guest here about a month and a half ago, the scientist who works at the in the Connecticut um, environmental and um, forget his exact job title, but works in the environmental realm. He talked about that a lot, packaging and the responsibility of packaging for companies. But yeah, the greenwashing. He talked about that, how they love to have a name, like our new green line, and meanwhile they're doing 10 other things with the other leg of the company. Or Sabina says piazzas or oh my god, Fusgangersonen. I can't pronounce that. What's that little letter? It's like, is that an S kind of a thing? All right, I won't waste your time. I will. It sucks because tomorrow I would move to Berlin. We would get a cheap apartment. Do those still exist? And just play electronic music and get on the train and go to Czech Republic and go play in Portugal in a festival. That's kind of my teenage dream. It's very sad that it's probably not going to happen, but I'll do a bit of that and I'll learn enough German to order food. Okay, so one more item, another news item to just touch on. So cool, and this is an entity that we have brought up a number of times because they've really done some really cool stuff. This company, I'll just say who it is, Starbucks. I don't like some of the things they do. Of course, I think it's annoying that they charge you extra for the milk alternative. That's fucking ridiculous, guys. You now sell more of that. You're getting it at a great price. Those cases of soy milk. I think you have your own brand. How dare you charge, I don't know, 50 cents, 75 cents? It's fucked up. That is not the difference between 2 or 3 ounces of cow milk and 2 or 3 ounces of soy milk. It's just not. Why are you upcharging us? We're the ones trying to make a change. Like you would think you'd encourage that. So fuck you, Starbucks, on charging extra for sensible alternatives. Having said that, I salute you, Starbucks, for responding to some of these pay inequity things. Starbucks has done a lot for worker, um, uh, um, optimizing worker rights and salary and kind of training and promotions and stuff. They've looked a lot at that. When they had that problem in a Philadelphia Starbucks with the two African American gentlemen who were ridiculously profiled and hassled by the manager and the cops and stuff. Hats off to Starbucks because they responded immediately. They closed every single Starbucks just days later to do a big chain-wide racism workshop and kind of um, retraining, and they really took it seriously and put some new management things in place. So I applaud them for that. On the food side, I also applaud them that they've been adding more and more plant-based proteins, plant-based ideas, especially out of in uh, in Asia, in the China, Hong Kong, South Korea, Singapore, Japan locations. I think also in New Zealand, Australia, where there's huge Asian populations and huge consumption of Asian traditional meals. Um, they've been trying out these Beyond Pork in these kind of delicious Asian breakfast items, and they've been trying. There's a soy-based butter that they use, so they've really been, looking at this and leaning in. So I applaud them. Um, so here is the new cool thing they're doing in Starbucks Indonesia. They have introduced, and that's big. That's one of the most populous nations on earth. They're in the top 10 of population and the largest Muslim nation on earth. How about that? 460 locations. And they're doing a vegan meatball sandwich. Look at that. Vegan barbecue sauce, and it's made to appease the Indonesian palate. They also have a chocolate raspberry cake as a plant-based dessert. Look at that. Amazing. Now, the people involved own Indonesia's largest plant-based restaurant chain. How cool is that? That there's a chain, not just, of course, there's always vegetarian restaurants every city, everywhere on planet Earth. But this place has 57 locations. Fantastic. Look at that. They do a sloppy Joe, a focaccia bread, and they're now partnered with Starbucks to do this sandwich. And again, this Green Rebel company is also working with two large steakhouse chains, and they're doing something called the beefless steak. Wow. Again, is it for me? No, uh, it's people are sometimes against stuff because they wouldn't eat it, or they wouldn't have it. How about just let's judge it on a real rational basis? And if this is being done locally, I love that it's local, and I love that in Indonesia they're not shipping a bunch of wheat gluten from Canada. How about that, right? That's awesome. It's employing people in Indonesia. It's using plants, so it's a sustainable, a repeatable process uh, with a low impact, lower impact on resources, and it's right there in Indonesia. So yeah, great company. It looks like I don't know anything about them, but they seem to be doing a lot of widespread work in Indonesia. And the article, I'll link the article, but it goes on to say that in the United Kingdom and also United Arab Emirates, 200 locations of Starbucks, because you have a lot of Muslim people who are, of course, vegetarian or vegan, and either all of their lives or during different parts of the year, the religious calendar. So really awesome. Um, so anyway, the bottom line is they are. It's slowly coming to the U.S., and it's just great when one of the biggest companies on earth is looking at plant-based breakfast sandwiches and saying, "Well, how can we bring that to the U.S.?" So I love it. Um, so Veg News, folks. I'm here. It's one of the 3 or 4 sites I'm on every week, and I just love it because they're very upbeat, and they kind of have a nice balance of recipes and ideas and welcoming new people to vegetarianism, but also just news, just like hey, here's a new product. So I will put that in the chat. Um, let's go back to some of your comments. Thank you for participating today. By the way, I'm going to wrap up, but thanks so much for I will keeping me put that in pretty busy today with comments and questions. Let's see. Sabine says beer. Beer. Might be time for a beer. Beer with or without alcohol, and soccer. Very important. Yes. Football. Though England has kicked us out of the European Championship, we're still friends. Did I just say get a cheap apartment in Berlin? I know. I know. As soon as I said it, I corrected myself, right? But we were in that area, kind of the Turkish area where David Bowie lived in the 70s, and it's where a lot of the electronic musicians lived. I understand in the 70s and 80s. What's the name of that area? And even this was 2 years ago. People said, "Yeah, you get some small, tiny one room, 1 bedroom apartments that were, not horrific price, but I'm sure it's impossible." Okay, so Sabine, thanks for stopping by again, even though it's late. The crazy German habit of summertime. Okay, we'll let you explain that to us next time. But yeah, okay. Well, the one other area I just wanted to touch base is: have you all been keeping up on the Delta variant? I mean, this is not. I'm trying to, stay just balanced about it, but these numbers are alarming, and it's becoming more and more clear that these numbers are more alarming in the uh, highly unvaxxed areas, which of course plays right into um, the conspiracy theorists, right? Because the conspiracy theorists, it's perfect. Because if you're saying to them now, hey, you really should get the vaccine because now the virus has mutated as it has been from the beginning of of this in November 2019. Uh, and they're telling you, hey, it's it's mutating and it's actually more infective. It's more dangerous. So there's more of a reason for you to get a vaccine. That's perfect if you're a conspiracy theorist, because then you turn around and say, "Aha! I knew it. You're making this up because you want me to believe that this is more dangerous when it's not. I'm not now. I'm really not going to get one." So it's this vicious cycle, and we're like, okay, and okay, Arkansas and Mississippi and New Orleans, Louisiana and Tennessee, uh, and the Dakotas. Fine, the problem is, of course, many of the people there that aren't vaccinated, it's not because they're science deniers. Uh, some of them are mixed in there, but it's because some of them are working 3 jobs, or don't have access to healthcare, or are living here illegally. That's another thing we have not talked about at all. I've missed it. Has anyone heard any direct solution to this? A few states, namely California, have said, you know, we're not going to ask immigration status and things like that. But a lot of people still refuse to come in. Not surprised. None of this is enough for people. They still just choose to think it's made up. So what are you gonna do? Anyway, as I read about it, the infectivity of this variant with this new set of mutations, it's even more infective for pets. So they're saying, if you know that you have a positive test, to really be careful around your cats and dogs because they catch it. One thing they have not had is a real solid animal reservoir, apparently. There are animals that catch COVID, cats, dogs. We know that at the top of the list is probably mink, right? Remember the mink blow up over the winter where they had to slaughter, they're going to slaughter them anyway, but they slaughtered at the same time en masse uh, all these mink, millions of mink in, I think it was Denmark or Norway, and then also in the American Midwest where there's a lot of mink farming and slaughter for their fur, up in around the Great Lakes. I think it was Minnesota. Similarly, they slaughtered millions of minks. And then also the Netherlands had a blow up in minks. So minks apparently catch the COVID virus easily and pass it on easily, and they're a perfect home for it to mutate. So that's the worst combinations. And but apparently they're not even calling the mink like a main reservoir yet. They're just, could it be the horseshoe bat? This bat that keeps popping up in the Chinese investigations. Could be. Could it be a pangolin? Could it be, there's a couple animals that have SARS, that have COVID. But just talking to a vet friend yesterday, she was saying technically we're not calling this zoonotic because it's not easily transmitted. So I thought that was interesting that the word easily changes the picture. I keep seeing the word zoonotic used in scientific tracts, when you read from the NIH or from CDC or the World Health Organization or Nature magazine, or just science writing in National Geographic or Time or Newsweek, um, across the board, New York Times. I try to read a lot of those articles and have been for 16 months, but the word zoonotic does pop up there. But yeah, I'm happy to have that be clarified by a vet friend who says technically, you know, we use that when it's easily transmitted. So there's still some wiggle room there, I guess, to that it is zoonotic, but not quite the level of other things. She also was saying, like, for instance, rabies, where forget about it. There's no doubt. Any mammal that's bitten or exposed to rabies from another animal will get it, have a really bad case of it, will pass it on. There's like no, so that's one they call zoonotic from the get go. But anyway, minor detail there. Either way, we got a big fucking problem, and so I wanted to just see if anyone had been paying attention on that. I'll put this article on the cats and dogs. Um, Cats and dogs and pets in general, and the Delta variant. Yeah, just I think we're just kind of rushing back into the shows and you know, it's interesting. It's just everything's back to normal. Some people are saying. I'm very interested in how that's being processed. Um, but yeah, this Delta variant. Uh, uh, One of the, I think, I could be completely wrong, but one of the areas I think it's good to look at is Israel, because they're what, like 80, 83, 86% vaccinated, something way up there, and way back, like I think they were hitting incredible numbers by February, March, and but now they're running into trouble with the Delta variant, right? They're going back to some regulations, some restrictions. There's some mask regulations back in place. People are, mainly the unvaccinated people, are angry because you know suddenly there's rules again. But Israel is something we should be looking at, because there's something there about how many vaccinated people are getting positive tests. Now they're not getting sick; they're not being hospitalized. Small number of them are, and some deaths, but small number of hospitalization, sickness, and deaths in the double vaccinated people getting um, Delta. But that number's slowly going up. So they're freaking out and looking at that, and Rightfully so. So I'm just kind of closing with throwing that out there because, and someone's saying, well, what does that have to do with animals? Everything, right? We know that somewhere in this story, whether it's a wet market, whether it's a wet market animal that crossed paths with somebody going in and out of a testing facility, whether it was in the testing facility and someone walked out with an infection that they got from an animal that they've been handling for 2 weeks, whether it's an animal that snuck in and out, right? Rodents, small animals come in and out of most human structures. So it's not crazy that some mouse or rat or something was in and out of uh, uh, the viral facility, and picked up some material that was then introduced into the natural world, um, the city natural world, um, in Wuhan. So there's all kinds of detective work that's still going on. Was it a pangolin that was stacked on top of a container of bats, and the or vice versa, and the bat feces the pangolin got? We don't know. I've, again, I've read about this for the whole 16 months, and what's fascinating is all we have are theories, right? All the way up to this resurgence of the lab theory. That that's old news. That was brought up a long time ago. Yes, it's being taken seriously at a different level now, but all of this stuff's interesting on two levels to me. A, that we'll possibly never really know. It's kind of like any other forensic thing. You get as much evidence as you can, but the moment of human introduction of something like this, it's hard to, there's also these Chinese miners, right, who work in these mines where there's all these bats, and these guys are exposed to bat guano every day, all day long. And, they just wipe it off. They have masks and they're wearing stuff to not breathe in, but it's on their boots and their hands and gets under their fingernails. And That's another vector. Normally it's just bat shit. But what happens when 10% of those bats had this new virus that developed? Who knows? But that I say all that to just remind us that this has everything to do with animals and our place in this planet, how we interact with animals, cutting down their habitat, figuring out that we want to eat them, so all of a sudden uh, uh, breeding them in incredible numbers and feeding them the foods they wouldn't eat in the wild, and giving them antibiotics and steroids so they grow faster and they don't get sick from being crowded into closed quarters. I mean, we just do this over and over and over, and then we wonder why all these modern blowups. So it has, you know, this has everything to do with animals. Yeah. So, all right. Well, I'm going to leave there. A little bit of lunch, a little bit of new products, some great comments from people, some reassurance that I will not get a cheap restaurant, a cheap apartment in Berlin. Lots of cheap restaurants. That's what I love, is the cheap Middle Eastern and Thai and Turkish throughout Germany, especially Berlin. But no on the apartment, folks. So, all right, I'm gonna leave one more little article from Yale Medicine, because again, I'm talking to friends who just shrug about this, and they just think, they all say the same thing. Oh, I got the shot, so yeah, well, that's good. But they told you when you got it that it was 93 or 96% or whatever. To you know, what they didn't tell you is right now that's the number, because it's a number that is subject to what variants are out there. Uh, so far, so good though. The vaccine seems to be efficacious against the Delta for the most part. Um, Very high percentage. Uh, so I'm gonna just put one article about Delta here. Uh, yeah, just an interesting thing from Yale, and I thought that was. But no matter what, there's gonna be people who just think it's all made up. I'm fascinated that that doesn't change. Um, was that a yerba mate? Oh, that I'm drinking here. No, this is as I kill it. It's uh like a LaCroix, one of those kind of. It's just tap water that's carbonated. Is it tap water? Is it even spring water? I don't know. Some of these actually are spring water. But it's water with green tea. Is so. But I did have. This is. I haven't cleaned up down here. This is a couple days ago. My good old yerba mate. It was a couple days ago. Um. All right, I've got to go and continue to do some video editing and some promotions. I've got let's see if I can add this to the chat. Um, hmm, hmm, no, I can't. Can I copy that? Anyway, I've got a great interview coming up Wednesday with a guy named Tony Rolando, who is a good friend of mine. I've been happy to say over the past nearly decade. But he is the founder and the brain behind a company called Make Noise. And Make Noise is a uh, synthesizer company, instrument company here in Asheville. They're a mile and a half from where I sit. And that's going to be interesting, talking to him about his vision and how he came up with the idea to start a company and where we are in 2021. So anyway, for you music heads, you know, just look at the links here. Um, please subscribe. Please check out my Patreon. Um, I put the link there earlier. I'll put it up again, and I'm doing all kinds of fun stuff there. Um, well, keep on reducing that percentage of animal protein, folks. That's you know, I I'm trying to increase the raw percentage. I'm gonna go snack on some berries and maybe make a shake with some bananas and spirulina and some good protein that I got at Trader Joe's, uh, like a pea protein, 20 grams per serving, sort of a thing. Uh, Trying to have that in the middle of the day, a little like protein shake kind of blast, and then get back to work. But yeah, keep me in the loop if you need ideas or encouragement, recipes, or people send me DMs all the time. Someone sent me one 2 days ago, like they're just getting into this and they watch a show for the first time. I told her, great, just send me some, questions and ideas um, that you're looking for. So I'm always here for that. Um, okay, cool. 5 o'clock on the dot. I will bid you adieu at this point. Uh, there we go. Talk to you soon. Thank you so much.